What's going on, vinyl community? Welcome to another video with the Record Spinner. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about my thoughts on vinyl reissues. I think vinyl reissues are intended for a myriad of reasons. I'd like to believe that it's simply because artists want their catalog back onto vinyl so it can be enjoyed by people that were either around when vinyl was the main dominant listening format and stuck through with it as the years went on, or it can be enjoyed by people such as myself and my generation, or even younger than me, that jumped on the vinyl bandwagon and enjoy listening to music in that format. I also tend to think that there is a bit of a corporate reason behind it, and that simply being record labels seeing this vinyl revival going on in recent years as a way of making more money and bringing in more revenue by repressing up titles that are highly sought after by either music lovers or vinyl aficionados. But regardless of all that said, I think reissues can be extremely beneficial. One of the reasons why is the price. Depending on the artist and the album, early editions and first pressings, condition varying of course, can go up to astronomical prices that are hard to justify by some collectors. For myself, it's very hard to justify an album that, let's say, if it's one LP and the condition is immaculate, I cannot see myself spending more than $25 maximum for it. Some collectors are different and they'll spend whatever that they want to spend. But the great thing about collecting vinyl is that there's no definitive rule to collect. Each, person has their reason behind it. Some people go after audiophile pressings. Some people like shopping at thrift stores and just getting records for $1. Or some people like spending out the wazoo for having a genuine first press in immaculate condition. And that kind of goes into play with my next reason why I think reissues are great, is because it's a guaranteed mint copy. Like I just mentioned, the condition is a very important factor when it comes to determining the price of first editions, older pressings, whatever. If it's in, let's say, very good plus near mint condition, both in terms of the sleeve and the vinyl, it can go for a high price tag. If the sleeve is kind of roached but the vinyl is immaculate, or vice versa, it's a bit of a different factor. For myself, as a collector, I like to have things as nice as possible. I am not big on having albums that have ring wear or scuffs or scratches or anything like that. It's just not for me, and that's why reissues are great, because it is a guaranteed mint copy. I do think in some cases reissues can outweigh originals, particularly with audiophile companies such as Mobile Fidelity, Sound Lab, and Analog Productions. The groups of people that work with companies like that are really determined to make the best pressing ever of that record. And that's why, people pay the prices that they charge, because they know what they're getting. Which is another thing too, because if it's a reissue and you see like where it was pressed and who it was mastered, you can kind of tell what you're in for. For myself, if I see that a reissue of an album that I want is done by a certain person, I know right off the bat that it is justifiable and I should go for it. But that's not just with the audiophile companies. I do have some examples that I'm going to show you in with these reissues kind of being, I guess, somewhat superior to some of the older pressings. Right off the bat, there's this album. This is King Crimson in the Court of the Crimson King. This is the 200-gram reissue that was done by Discipline Global Mobile, which is Robert Fripp's own label. And I can tell you, for reasons that I'm going to explain, this is the superior copy to own. Back in 1969, when this album was being prepped for release, there was some misalignment with the recording heads when it came to creating the master, which lost some of the higher frequencies and caused a bit of distortion. So, with technology being what it was, limited back then, they decided to try to fix these issues with making a copy of that first generation master onto another tape, thus creating a second generation master, which was used for pretty much every version of the album that was manufactured from 69 to the early 2000s, whether it be on vinyl, CD, cassette, anything. That even includes the Mobile Fidelity Sound Lab version that was done in the 80s. It wasn't until I think it was 2003 that the first generation master was discovered, because before that it was presumed to be lost. And with technology being as advanced as it is nowadays, they were actually able to go back and fix those issues even more to make it listenable, and that way they can use that first generation master for all subsequent pressings and editions of that album. And then in 2009 they remixed it in stereo in 5.1, but that's a whole other story. So, this reissue uses that first generation master that was fixed up. Whether it comes from the tape or a digital transfer, it doesn't matter, because this is the best sounding copy. Another cool thing with reissues is that depending on the amount of care and detail, you'll get all the bells and whistles. Now, when I say bells and whistles, I mean like extras that you might get with the album, such as memorabilia, booklets, inner sleeves, things like that. A band that is a perfect example for that is Kiss. A lot of those early albums from the 70s included something. I think Kiss Alive included a booklet, Rock and Roll Over included a sticker, Love Gun had the Love Gun prop, and the solo albums included posters. If you go to a used record store and you're in the market for one of those albums and to have everything, you'll pay a premium. But there's a good chance of the time that if you just pick up a used copy, there's going to be something missing, and it's not going to be the full-on deal that was originally intended back in the day. The 2014 Kiss reissues are excellent because everything is replicated to the nines. The only minor thing that was not replicated was the merchandise order forms that came with the original copies of the albums. I don't think it's a big issue because obviously that was available back then, and they're not going to, make them done now and people think, oh, I can just submit this and get something. That's not the case nowadays. So that's just a minor thing, but everything is replicated to great detail, and I'll show. This is one of the albums, Kiss Alive 2, where there was a lot of extras that were replicated to great detail. I'll just show it off. Right off the bat, you have what is probably the best gatefold cover ever. This album included, there were some printed inner sleeves. This is for both of them. So you have the crowd here, and you have the discography back then, what was out. And then you also got a really cool booklet, which was called The Evolution of Kiss, which included all kinds of photos from back then, from when they started leading up to 77, when this album came out. There's a short essay. And it even includes the temporary tattoos that came with the original album. Obviously, I did not put these on my skin. I am keeping these intact. So, reissues can be great for that sense. So that's one. And sometimes the packaging of reissues can outweigh originals even more. Another example I'll show you is Jimi Hendrix. All of the Hendrix reissues include excellent cardstock for the sleeves. The gatefold's replicated. It's nice, thick, heavy duty. All the records come in these really nice rice paper inner sleeves, which a lot of audiophile releases tend to use. I think this was mainly Mobile Fidelity Sound Lab thing, but other companies have done their own versions of it, such as Quality Record Productions, which was the company that looked over these reissues. And all of the Hendrix reissues on vinyl now include really great booklets, which have photos and liner notes talking about the album, giving some insight on the songs, all kinds of great photos of Jimmy with the Experience. Just really awesome stuff. And well worth the money, too. Surprisingly enough, because a lot of prices go up and down on these things. I got this reissue for $11. Still in shrink, perfect. Got it from Amazon. And this was done by Bernie Grundman, and this just absolutely sounds fantastic. That all right there is my thoughts on vinyl reissues. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that it was informative. And if you enjoyed it, please like it and subscribe to the channel. See you guys in the next video, and most importantly, keep the record spinning.